Welcome back. It's time for another episode of the Apprentice One-to-One podcast, sponsored by Schneider Electric.
Limbers up like an Armadillo.
Yeah, do your warm up.
That's it. Ready to go.
Welcome back to the Apprentice One-to-One podcast. I have got the usual hosts with me again today. Jamie, how are you? Brilliant. You're that well. How are you, Jamie?
That's all I've got to say for now.
Very good. How are you, Craig? You all right?
Obviously not as good as Jamie. No.
No, I expect that might be you doing that based on what you've been eating before the podcast. But yeah, there we go. And we have a guest with us this week. Not just any guest, some YouTube fame has joined us. How are you? How are you, James? We've got James Watkins. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm good. Nice to see you.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on and having a chat with us. We've been trying to get round as many people as possible with the aim of speaking about our journeys into the industry and what we thought of the training and helping other apprentices who were maybe on that route and working towards doing it themselves. So getting your input as a relative youngster compared to us old farts would be cracking. So thank you very much for giving your time up.
No worries.
It's nice though, isn't it? Like, he's got to get the award for best dressed. Like.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The man from Del Monte wants his suit back, but that reference you lost on you because you don't get that reference, do you? Because I'm 40. Fuck. Is this the rehearsal or are we doing this really?
No, we're doing this really,
right.
Mate.
Yeah.
It's good. We should probably all start making more of an effort, to be honest. James has set the bar higher for us. So let's start off with you, James, and your history. When did you qualify as an electrician? Now, when did you first start your training as an electrician?
Oh, I started straight out of school. So basically, as I finished my exams, you break up for school, and then I had to decide what I wanted to do. So I done the usual, done what my mates done, went into the electrical side of it. So it was me and two of my best mates at the time. Went to college. I remember we'd done like a week in this before you actually go to college, like this week training thing. I can't really explain. They just tell you what it's all about and something like that. So we done that, and then we all agreed to it and went to college, and rest is history really. And straight out of school, I think it was, well, how old I would have been, 16, 17, something like that.
Okay, so you
already there?
23.
All right.
So yeah.
Sure, was that you?
So did you go full-time college, James, or did you do the sort of 1 day a week day release? What was your?
Yeah, so at the start it was 1 day in college and then out on site for 4 days. But I always remember at the start, it was always a struggle trying to find employers. So I think I must have been out of employment for must have been about a month or so. But I know there were some other students there who was out of work for a few months at least.
It's a big problem, mate. That's something that I see every week in Apprentice One-to-One.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, especially when you've legitimately got yourself onto an apprenticeship and you just want to work through it, don't you? And then you lose that work role. You know, did you have difficulty finding something else, or was it a case of your college helped you to fill the gap when you lost your job?
To be fair, I was quite lucky. It was there was a company, 30 seconds down the road from me that they found me, so I could walk there every morning, and so it felt perfect. And that was the company I'm actually doing some self-employed work with now. So I was with them for, it must have been about 7 years before I moved up to London with Tom for a bit. And yeah, they've been a great company from the start. So from day one to where I am now, they've always been good to me. So I got lucky, but I know there's a lot of students, and my mate who was one of them, he got laid off by like 2 companies, but it just varies on different work and different people. But yeah, it's like I got quite lucky, I think.
Definitely. I mean, you're right. It's just individual experience, isn't it? And yeah, we're not all as lucky as you have been. In and out of employment is a big problem at the minute. So yeah, if you are struggling to get yourself into work, doing the course of an apprenticeship, there's loads of videos that people have popped out recently offering some advice. I know Jordan's done one from Artisan. Tom as well, you mentioned him. He's done videos as well in the past, and we've all had a go too.
I think the biggest thing for me, and it was from like day one, I just worked as hard as I possibly could every single day, turn up on time, just work. And I think after a while, they still see you as an apprentice, but they start to take note that, he actually does work hard. And I think that then helps in your future years as you're qualifying, whether they take you on. Because there are some apprentices, and like I said, some people in the college, they go where they just mess about in work or not really interested. And then I think some of those people are the ones who can't get back into jobs or losing the jobs. I'm not saying that's going to be the case for everyone, because don't get me wrong, there's going to be people who's working hard and still losing employment.
Don't worry about it, mate. You can say some people are dicks on here, you know. Yeah?
No, but I think it is. It's like I've worked with people and they just
Did
don't
you all
care.
get through? Did you all get done? Your mates, did you all get through, or are you the exception? Or
No, it's well, the one dropped out. He never finished it. But I don't really speak to him anymore anyway. But my
he's not
best
Spark,
mate
is
now,
he? Fuck him.
obviously. No, my best mate, he qualified in the same company I was at as well. I got him in with us, so he qualified with us. But he's gone down more the maintenance side of things now.
Good lad.
I just don't think he was enjoying the install side of it. He's more of, he's happy to get his money in every month, and
Yeah.
it,
He's a clock. And he wants a carriage clock, yeah. If you know that term, I know you're 23.
basically. No, but he's just happy what he does. So
it's good to have someone on, mate, that says like that, because I think the secret ingredient is graft. Yeah, no matter what.
That's what I'm trying to get across. Is
yeah.
If you work hard, you can. Wherever you work for, I think it will come noticed at some point. It's not going to happen straight away. It's not going to, you work hard for a week and then that's it. You got to work hard your whole apprenticeship.
But even after that, I think, because, certainly for me now, I'm still learning, and I'm sure you feel the same. Like, you still go to days and it's like, what am I looking at in front of me? Once you think you know it all, I think that's a dangerous point, and you've got to keep that learning going, in my opinion. Like, people look and go, it's apprenticeship done, I'm qualified, off I go. I think for me, that's just the start of the journey still, is you've got the right to start doing some work, and now it's really where you start learning to carry on, I think, personally.
It never ends,
definitely, yeah.
It never ends. I don't know about you, Craig, just to interject a bit, but obviously you were teaching, yeah, and you was in charge, weren't you, basically? You was a top man. So I went from being a company director, then I went into a few jobs over COVID, because COVID, and then I went teaching where I was sort of like the person in the classroom, was only tutor there. And now I've gone to a job where I'm not the hottest on what we do. I'm like, fucking hell, I've felt like this for a while, and I really am having to bang the books out and do reading stuff, and it never ends that. I don't think, and I'm sure everyone would agree.
It's a huge transition. Everything you do, every different job I've ever done in the industry, like even now, what you're saying, gone from the job I was doing of managing education for the last 10 years and being fairly comfortable at doing that, to now going in and doing design and stuff again, and like someone else is signing my drawings off, someone else is checking my calculations, someone else is making sure that it's fit to go, and then you've got people sending them back, and they want something different to what you've done. Like, I don't get through a single day without swearing at CAD or learning something new. Either or happens every day. Like, it's impossible to say that's the end of it, I think.
That is true, and you'll see there's some of the chats that come up on social media of experienced electricians disagreeing with each other all the time. So there's no hard and fast rules.
Who would do that?
Well, I think it's one of those, isn't it, where if you keep an open mind and you're kind of progressive in your approach to industry, you won't go far wrong. And I guess as a relative youngster coming into the industry, James, you'll be kind of maybe experiencing your first changes in the regs, I guess, coming from the. Did you start on the 17th or was it the 18th when you first started? It must have been the 17th when you first started out.
Yeah, it was the 17th, and then basically as soon as I qualified, I think it changed then to the 18th Blue Book. But yeah, that was when I was still learning. Like you said, as soon as you pass your apprenticeship, it's like when you really start to learn big time. So I got my head stuck into that book, and obviously now with the new regs, just getting used to them again now. But yeah, I remember the first change was the Blue Book, and there was quite a lot to take in, as I remember, because I was still trying to learn all the other stuff from the other book as well.
So how long you been out of time?
Oh, well, the apprenticeship was 3 years. That's another thing to talk about. But so 4 years.
4 years, 4 or 5 years.
So same as that. How did you feel when you finished your apprenticeship? How did you feel about the trade? Do you think you clocked it? You know everything. And how do you feel about that now? How does that relate to 4 years later?
Definitely not. Straight after apprenticeship, I don't agree that I should have passed my apprenticeship. Not that
honesty.
Not that I was bad, but technically I could go out on my own and crack on. Luckily I had a supervisor over me, but you know, he's pricing 50 grand jobs, and realistically I could do that at being qualified. I would never have the guts or anything or the mind to do that at that time. And I think 3 years is just not enough.
Did you feel at the time you was done and dusted you could go and do it, or do you now look back? What was it like at the time?
No, I definitely don't think I could have gone out on my own. I still struggle now with a lot of things, but
Don't we all, mate?
yeah, I don't put myself under pressure where if I don't know something, I'm not going to do it. I'll look into it first and then approach it. But because for me, I struggled a little bit in school. So actually learning this book, like some people, it's second nature. I think just click on and it sinks in. For me, I got to like watch things. I can't just sit there reading a book. It's hard for me to take it in. So I probably should know more than maybe I do now, but I just know I'll learn if I don't know something. And I think that's the main ingredient of it. Like,
see, I think that's the worry though, James, is that we all think we should know more than we do now. I mean, if I sit next to Mark, he makes me look like I'm on day one because he just gets everything in that head of his. But apart from that, it's like you know what you need to know at the time, and then you'll learn what you don't know. And I think as long as you take that approach, this false ceiling, I think, of everybody needs to know everything that's in the book page by page, I don't think that's right, even coming from an education background. I think you need to know how to understand how to get the answer to what you're looking for. And if you don't, I'd text these two and say, I'm stuck, help me.
Today, I literally used, today, the job I did today, I literally didn't even use 1/10 of 1% of what I know. But some days, I'll do something that I've got no idea how to do, and I have to research it. And like I say, the book, the BSM 671, and I swear down by this, it's learning to reference manuals and books. And once you've learned to reference that one, you'll find they're all written the same, and you can always go and get that information out of them.
Yeah,
I think it's
sorry,
go on, James.
It's like when I first qualified, I was watching a lot of YouTubers. I think it was only like Arts and Tom and a couple of others at the time, and gradually, and like John Ward was a big one. Watching them, and now so many YouTubers on YouTube teaching, and seem like everyone knows everything. Not in a bad way. Like it comes across that people know.
Watch my channel.
No, people know.
No, said everyone knows everything.
But so then as an apprentice watching that, or someone who's just qualified, you're gonna be like, oh, should I know that much, or am I doing something wrong, or something like that? Because I've thought like watching people, but people just got to realize that people do go back into books, people do research before making videos and stuff like that. So don't panic too much if you're not as clued up as a lot of people on the YouTube scene.
But I think that's a campaign that will blow a bit of smoke, that Mark and Neil were going on a little bit about starting to show work on Instagram and things that wasn't as pretty as what maybe people make you believe every day finishes up, because we all have those days on our knees where you're just glad to get to the end of the job and get it turned back on and leave. But you never see that on social media, do you? So it's
some people are on it. So I think there's some
it's starting now. It's definitely starting now.
Show a spark. I think Nick Bundy shows a general Sparky day's work in factual. And then, as you just mentioned there, mate, don't feel bad about watching stuff, because I remember the first time I taught 2391, I drove to that college, listening to the John Ward testing videos. You know what I mean? Because I just thought, I was like, I must have this wrong. I must have it wrong. So the resources there.
I've seen a lot through Apprentice 1-to-1 of people younger than yourself, James, and my apprentice who's qualified now, Matthew, said the same, that they're put off from joining in a lot of the discussions because they don't feel like they know enough because of old farts like us giving it large on the internet all the time. When the reality is we don't know everything. Far from it. We've just had more time in the game, more experience, that's all. And I think as long as we're welcoming those people into the discussions and understanding that they don't have that experience, it's good for everybody. And it's the same with sharing your work. There was Ruben from Artisan Electrics who shared another picture of his work the other week, and him doing that is such a powerful thing for those apprentices to feel comfortable doing it themselves. I really hate when you see the old timers jump on somebody's first board they've posted and start ripping it to shreds.
I did this to James, did not intentionally. There's a cable bend, weren't there? And I said, mate, that bend's too tight. Now, I appreciate you took that like, one, I'm not the greatest writer in the world. And I'm just like going, oh, your bend's a bit tight. You want to check that out? But I can appreciate putting stuff on Twitter. You will get people just being arseholes. And I'm always trying to be genuinely helpful, but I can appreciate that.
Yeah,
people
I No, I don't mind criticism. It don't bother me because there's one way to improve. But it's like some people are so petty. I'm not saying that was petty, but some people can be so ridiculously petty. But for me, it doesn't bother me. But I know some people, if they post their work, it will get to them, and it will like knock them back a step. But like it's like you mentioned about people uploading photos and videos of their work and it not being the real world. I kind of get. For me, I only want to upload good photos is to promote my business. I don't really want to be uploading bad photos because then it's demoting my business, if that makes sense. So I get why people won't show the real world. I think it's just the main thing is people understanding that that isn't the real world, if that makes sense.
No, and I think your message here is quite powerful. It's about you're doing your YouTube and your social media to promote your business. So 100% that needs to be what you can do to show off what you're doing. The more important message in that sentence, I think, is what you then came on to was understanding that if every day you finish, it doesn't look like it does on that best day's work. That's okay too. Actually, the important thing is about it being safe and compliant, and then everyone shouts about the jobs that they do well and have a look at this because they say that's how you market yourself. And it's the two different sides to that story, I guess, and people not thinking that it's only the good days, like everybody's only having those good days every day, like, and never having the bad days, and understanding where they are in the journey through that, I think, is quite important.
What do you think about socials, James? What from your view? Because like I really enjoy Twitter and Instagram, and I've got myself in a nice group of people on there in circle, which is where stuff like this has come from. And I really enjoy partaking. You get the occasional chance to dive in, but how do you find that?
I love it. For me personally, I love it. Like you follow who you want to follow, and you kind of get a grasp who's the good people, who's the bad people. You know, if you don't like them, just unfollow them, whatever. For me, I've grew up my mates on full on band, they get ripped into each other all the time. So when people send bad comments, I really just don't. It does not bother me. But I get why some people it does bother some people. Like I know Tom, he struggles with it a little bit. Like where people are constantly on him, like he's almost got 100,000 subscribers. Think how many people are commenting bad things. If you're reading them constantly, it can take a toll, I can imagine. But for me, it just doesn't bother me. But I look at the good side, like all you guys now, I'm like asking Mark questions. He's helped me out a few times and putting stuff out on Twitter. For that, it's just perfect, and to get answers off people and help.
So you find it positive, find it mostly positive, yeah.
Definitely, as long as if it's hard to. I find it positive if you take it positively, but with all the negativity on it, shut it away, get rid of it.
Yeah. You made loads of good points in all of that, and I can only emphasize what you're saying from my small community on social media. For someone like Tom Nagy or Jordan and Nick, the stuff they must get, and I know from speaking to one or two of them in the past, some of the stuff they get is horrendous. It's not just about electrical things, it's actually horrendous. So yeah, there is that aspect to it all, and it's not the best. But you make a good point as well about your business and presenting that in a good light. I totally get that. I do that as well. But it's what I've tried to do more of as I'm more established as a contractor, if you like. My customers know what they get out of us by now. We're not marketing actively as we would be from your position, just starting out. So I can share some of what the day-to-day does look like sometimes. So some of the apprentices who are following realize it's not always picture perfect. We do have issues in the trades around mental health. There's the isolation and loneliness of all of that. And I think social media helps in parts due to that, but can also flare up some issues for people. So I think it's important we try and keep it real as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's just, it's like you said, for me, I'm trying to promote my business. So I don't really want to put bad things on there, but if people have got a following or a sustainable business, a growing business, they can afford to put these, not bad images, or I'm not, but the real world stuff. It does make more sense.
And you've mentioned Tom a few times, James. Just out of curiosity, did you go to work for Tom because of having seen what he was doing on YouTube?
No, it was a weird one. I uploaded a fuse board 2 years before I actually went and worked for him, and he messaged me if I ever wanted a job in London, message him. I thought I can't, I got a child and all of this. And then it was only a year later, I was getting a bit fed up where I was working, and I thought, I'll message him. And he's like, yeah, phone whoever it was at the time and sort something out. And it just kind of went from there, and that was it. But no, it wasn't to do with the social media things. It was just the experience of London. And you know, it's something you couldn't turn down at the time.
How did you
Yeah,
find
no,
London?
what I'm more curious about, sorry, I probably didn't ask it very well, was we're constantly looking for sparks now. So I'm just wondering if the initial thing was about that his social media was maybe helping him recruit people to his business, was what I was kind of like. But obviously your journey was slightly different, but I'm just trying to think of avenues for apprentices and stuff to get themselves noticed. So if you're saying, you know, you were contacted off of putting a fuse board up, that's a really positive message to people starting out and starting to share their story, because it might lead to them getting work off some of these other individuals once they know what they're getting, if you like, before they start.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've seen people talking about it a lot lately. Is everyone needs to make an Instagram or Twitter just to upload their work if they're happy with it, just to get yourself out there, just to promote yourself, even if you haven't got a business, even if you're working for a company, promote yourself, build your own reputation. Like for me, like the whole thing with electrics, I do work because I enjoy it, and my main thing is to make it look nice, obviously safe as well. But I like to stand back sometimes, think, sure, I'm happy with that. And when you're happy with something, upload it. Why not? No, don't, like we just talked about all the negativity. You know, don't worry about it. Just upload that photo if you're happy with it, and then it can lead to work, like I did with Tom. So yeah, definitely do it.
Having
How
had
long-
the
oh,
sorry, Jamie, go for it.
I just want to, James, you don't get to London, which is quite a big step from Wales to go down there and work there. How long did it take to work out that it's an absolute fucking shithole?
You know
Go
what?
back in your northern box and leave us alone.
It was only until I come back and went back up there recently that I thought, what the hell was I doing? Like, it was only, it took me to come back and then go back up to realize how, like, what was I doing up here for so long? Like,
What, as in up London or?
yeah,
To-
London, it's just manic. It's just like,
It scares the shit out of me. I won't work inside the M25, to be honest.
So you've had quite a varied career so far, James. I would say it's fair to say you've got to work with the mega star of YouTube. I've seen some of your posts you share on Instagram with the stuff you're doing with that company you've worked at for a long time, and you're doing your subcontracting with now. And you know, there's quite a variation there, isn't there? What kind of areas of the industry do you enjoy most? What's your, you know, favorite aspect to it, or is it all good to you?
1,000,000%. If you're an apprentice looking for employment, first thing to do is send your CVs out to all industrial and commercial sparks. That's my personal thing. Is the experience you can get from it is so much better than domestic. Like, you can enjoy industrial and commercial so much more than you can domestic. Domestic is a graft, and I'm not saying the industrial is not. It's not, but you've got to work hard. But it's more relaxed. You know, lifting up floorboards. You know, running around people's houses is. Yeah, if you can get in the industrial to start off with, I definitely recommend that.
I find all the trainees, all the new to the game sparks, all the wannabe sparkies, and that's not a rude term, that's like what I'll call them, they just only see domestic. I don't know, is that because of YouTube? That because what they find easily? It's just like everyone wants to be a domestic spark, and then no one really knows about industrial, like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, like I didn't even know industrial was a thing. I didn't know what a socket was before I was actually doing, when I was doing it. So you don't know what you get into when you're just leaving school. You kind of just fall into it and you learn about. I didn't know what trade work was or anything like that.
I was the same. I think I've told the story where I thought, where did I come and thought it fixed taste? But like, it's weird, isn't it? When you live in a house, you understand that they get built, and you understand that there's the wires in your house. Then you don't think about how factories get built. But there's a lot of people out there that do better to go into industrial and maintenance and stuff, and they just want to bash houses. But
I still don't know what a socket is. But yeah, I think the benefit of what you're saying, James, certainly at the company I'm at, we go on to a project and we are generally on a project for somewhere between 6 and 30 weeks at a time. So the apprentices that go off to those sites, they're generally getting to work from start to finish on a full job and having sort of 6 to 30 weeks, depending on the size of the job, working with some sparks who are quite long in the game that have got ways to show and train them. And there's that allowance available, I suppose, to help and train them up. Whereas I guess, having not really done domestic much in my life, a lot of that is customers home at 5 o'clock or once you're out to have their evening. I'm guessing the time pressure at times can be a bit more now and then rather than sort of 10 weeks down the road.
Yeah, no, I don't. If I could get away with not doing domestic, I 100% wouldn't. It is just hassle from booking in jobs, dealing with every client. There's a lot more money in commercial and industrial as well.
It's so right. It's so right.
Yeah, it's just so much more money. It's just so much less hassle. Like, I can't explain it. But I do think, though, if you are an apprentice and say you are in an industrial commercial, you do need to try and get some experience in the domestic game as well. That's something I lacked going up to London. Because all I'd done was at my time at the boss's house, domestic wise, and that's all I'd done. So I learned a lot in 8 months up in London about domestic, and now I do feel comfortable in there. But going from completely industrial and commercial to domestic was a big change, and it may seem like second nature to some people and easier, but when you've never done it, you've never done it. So how are you supposed to know? Even the smallest things like drilling behind skirting boards, lifting up floorboards, the little things you just don't know about.
Did you, because that's important, and I think, you know, what you don't know, whether it's domestic, commercial, industrial, because you were working for someone who essentially had this presence out there, and I'm not talking about him as a personality or good or bad, just generally someone who's quite out there, you know, some of your work's going to be on videos. Did you find that harder to ask questions as an apprentice, or do you think you just had that sort of personality to say, well, I'm going to give it a go and see what I learn and just take it all like a sponge and kind of get on from there?
Oh, well, I was done my apprenticeship with the industrial company I was with, and to be fair, I did have a good supervisor who knew his stuff. He took pride in his work. He still does take pride in his work, and everything had to be spot on. So I got lucky with my supervisor, and he did know his stuff. And like I said, when I was up to London doing the domestic, if I didn't know something, I would like ask Tom. I wouldn't be afraid. If I didn't know something, I didn't know it. And there was a lot of things where I did know on like the test forms and the other side of things. So yeah, I'm never afraid to ask questions. If I don't know something, I don't know it. And
Good life lesson that. Yeah. People who don't ask questions get dead quick.
yeah.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question. It's not necessarily on James specifically or where he was working. It's more about like apprentices hearing for people that we're all still asking questions and having to learn that it doesn't matter who you're with, what you're doing. You've got to still ask, otherwise you're going to come stuck.
Yeah, I get it that some people don't get lucky and have a nice supervisor, or, you know, there are some horrible people out there. And so I get why some people are reluctant to ask questions. But at the end of the day, you may not be at that company forever. Just ask what you need to ask. And if you don't know something and he won't tell you, or she, I should say, go home and learn it yourself, or ask other people on Twitter, Instagram. Just, if you don't know something, you've got to find it out, because otherwise you won't know.
There's 2 types of... Sorry, mate, go.
I was just going to say, I was getting a strong vibe that James doesn't like domestic. He likes commercial and industrial. I think that's pretty clear from that chat, isn't it? And it is a personal thing at the end of the day, because you could talk to someone else and they'd love domestic and not industrial and commercial. The fact we have that variety in our industry is really good, because everyone can find a home for themselves and get along quite happily.
Oh, I don't know about that. You'll always catch me using the term house basher and cottage walloper, which people take as being offensive. It's not, because I said this. I'm repeating myself now. I said this on Monday Club. If I had to put something in a house, if I had to put a cable down to a light switch, my first instinct is, let's get a fucking chisel. Whereas a good quality house basher, cottage walloper, will probably fish it down, capping, or do something a bit more ornate than just knocking the fuck out the wall like I would do. So like that, and that is where it comes in into it. I'm not saying to go into a house and putting down lights without making a mark is a skill that I do not have. I'm like, yeah, mate, I'm ripping your carpet up, fuck your carpet.
we all
no way to go on.
We all find our niche, don't we, mate? We definitely do. I want to pull back to something that James said earlier on there, that you only did a 3-year apprenticeship and that was a story in itself. Do you want to share a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's just, I think colleges are money makers at the moment, in my personal experience, and 3 years, sure, I just don't think is enough. Like, I just don't. By the time, don't get me wrong, there's some people, like I said, can just switch on and take everything in. Like, I wasn't a bad student. I listened when I can and took in what I could. And by the end of those 3 years, like I said, I don't think I was ready to be out on my own, essentially.
Why was it 3 years? Because that's shorter, isn't it? I don't know why was it 3 years?
I think it's because it's an out on site learning basis. So you're out on site 4 days a week, and then in college once, and then by the 3rd year, you're not even going. You're going to college like once a month.
Were you through JTL, or were you through the college?
I don't really know. It was, I don't want to say the name, but
Go on.
it's not like a standard college as such, where you know you got a area.
I was a bit more of an academy type.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So and this is where it's a real. This is where I have loads of fun with certain individuals on social media when they, and not you, James, but when they call everything's about a college, and there's a real distinct difference between what a college can do, what an academy can do, and what a training provider can do, and then what an organisation such as JTL can do. And they're all governed by different rules, and for me, that's part of the problem. I'm not saying that any one of those scenarios is any better or worse than the other. It's just a reality. They're all governed by different rules, and that different rule of government, unfortunately, makes mismatches in the apprenticeship. So on paper, the current electrical apprenticeship is a 4-year program and has been for as long as I can remember. But unfortunately, if it's in an organisation where they have a profit and a bottom line, then sometimes that can go through a bit quicker, and that's a shame, because that then means, as you say, you don't quite feel that you've learned everything you needed to learn as you come out the other end. And that for me is the biggest difference, which leads to the shames, is colleges are charities, so they don't get to make a profit, so they don't make a profit. They have to reinvest back in the students, whereas training providers and academies don't. They are there making a profit, so it is then at times that mark or that decision has to be made by the offset of good for the apprentice and good for the business. And I guess what you're saying is somewhere in that bubble, without naming anybody, you kind of fell a little bit down that middle line of what was best for what you wanted against what the profit was for somebody else, kind of thing.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, there was one teacher there and he's very switched on and you could learn a lot from, but we only had him for 1 year out of the 3. And if you had him for the 3 years teaching you, you would come out there in 3 years knowing what you should probably know. But it's like the whole system is just messed up, because they're supposed to come out and assess you on your 3rd year with your MVQ and stuff like this. But I know boys that didn't even get assessed and it was getting ticked off.
It's refreshing to have someone on there who's, I mean, we're all fucking old, yeah, but it's nice to have someone here who is coming across saying, look, because there's a lot of people out there that think you can rush into this, think they're going to go and do a level 2 and level 3 and you're a Spark in 2 years. And there's adverts for that. I've shared one on Twitter today, but it's nice to have someone on it factually and young, who young people listen to, saying, you know what, it was too quick. You can't learn this stuff overnight, and that's really refreshing.
No, that's what's brought me here now, though, is like I've always gone behind my own back and learned stuff, always watching YouTube. Like John Ward was a big one when I was an apprentice, massive. Every single video I was watching, all the
still the biggest now. He's still the biggest now.
Yeah, just constantly watching his testing videos and everything. And I'd say I learned a lot more from that in qualifying than I did in my apprenticeship, like learning in college. It was, yeah, it's just there needs to be more time in the classroom, especially because on site you're only learning what another person has learned. Now that's going to just be an ongoing thing. If I'm teaching an apprentice only what I've learned in college, and then he's teaching an apprentice what he's learned from me as such, it's just going to be a knock-on effect where people are not knowing everything that they should do. That's
an interesting avenue. So you think then on the apprenticeship side there should be more than 1 day in college rather than the 1 day a week? And I'm not judging. I'm saying I think that's an interesting point. I'm curious on it. Do you think there should be more on the sort of in college time learning aspect and less emphasis on the employment side, or where are you kind of feeling with that?
Yeah, I think so. If it was my choice, I would say 2 days in college, 3 days out on site. Now, like it's like everyone's going to be varied. For me, like I struggle to take in the theory side, but some people may need more the practical side than the theory. But for me, yeah, I'd say 2 days was probably needed a week just to pick up the loose ends. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with you. It's just you're the first person who's come on and said that, and it's refreshing for me, because they say, and I still tell to people now and tell them that they reckon you averagely remember something like 15% of what was spoken to you about in a day. So to think that you can understand all of your electrical knowledge and effectively, 36 days a year for a 4-year apprenticeship. So 150 days, for argument's sake, is all you need to study to learn all you need to know about being an electrical apprentice from a technical point of view. I think is a long stretch for some people, as you say, and I think if we're all being honest, we'd have learned more doing a few more days in that. So I think it's an interesting point, definitely.
I think more flexibility in it would be a good thing, because I'm just thinking of 2 apprentices I've had in my company, and one, Matthew's a similar sort of age to you, James. He's qualified and out of his time now, and he struggled with the theory side of stuff. He'd probably say the similar sort of things to what you've said. The issue he had, again, his college wasn't very good, and he didn't really get the support there that he needed. Most of his training in the full was given by his employer, whereas as Nathan, he's much more academic. He's got the theory side of things really quickly. He's already into his 2nd year of study, but he really struggles with the practical aspect of stuff like working drills, tools, measuring stuff properly, and all of the physical things we have to do as a day-to-day. I think there is that differences in everybody, and I mean, if we made it more flexible to that individual rather than so rigid in that it must be done like this, we'd get a better outcome for everyone who's going through that process.
Can I share something? Can I share my screen? I don't know if I can do this, because I'll try and do it. If not,
is it your holiday pictures? Because if it is, we don't want to see them.
I used to do this before. Every lesson I used to teach. I don't think I can share screen on this, but I'll put it on my Twitter. Yeah, it's called the Learning Triangle. If you Google it, it's called the Learning Triangle. And I've got it in front of me now. It says if you get lectured, you retain 5% of the information given to you, and if you read it, you retain 10. Audio visuals 20. Demonstrations 30. I'll stick it on my Twitter, but it's really interesting to look at, because I used to speak about that every course I did, because I used to base my teaching around not lecturing people, because I know it's the lowest form of retention. But a lot of colleges will just get you in there, not colleges, pick me up on that. Private training providers will get you in there, go bang, 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 PowerPoint, and then get to an exam. And the fact is, you could be spunking up a load of money for nothing, because 6 weeks later, it's all gone. So just be aware of that. It's the Learning Triangle. Have a look at it. It's that interesting, I find.
I'll pop a link in the description.
And good and bad teaching, Jamie, does happen in colleges as well. I think it's across the board. I'm not saying one side's better than the other. It's just differences in what their incentives at the end are, shall we say.
Look, I'll low tech this. Watch this, lot. There it is, lot. This it's that. So if anyone looks for that, I swear by that. I learned that on a DITS course with the Army, and I found it really interesting. I based all my teaching on that since. It's really interesting to look at, because you'll know. Oh, if anyone's a bit downtrodden when they're learning, going, it's just not going in, I don't get it. You're not thick, you're being lectured, and your brain can't handle it, and that's proved by whoever that is.
I suppose an interesting question to all of us then, I guess, and just a point of view and not tying anyone to anything. If it was more flexible then, how does that impact you as a business if you've got one apprentice then who goes to college 3 days a week, let's be extreme, and one who goes half a day a week? How is that setting you up? Or do you think that's something that should be agreed at the point of taking the apprentice on, and understanding, should more be done about understanding how they're going to learn so that you can set up that bespoke program for them?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
I was going to say, rather than the funding pot just being apportioned straight to the training provider, perhaps that should be apportioned to the employer a little bit as well, if they're taking them with them for more of the time. So because some of that is offset, I guess a bit more of a balance up with that. So if the employer's without the learner for a couple of days, they're not paying for those 2 days in wages. There's maybe some give back in, I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Because there's only so much money to go around. But I get what you're saying. The employer's paying at least 30 hours a week, and they don't want to be paying for 2 days of that in college, I would guess.
Am I not right to say that's why they ask for C grade GCSEs as a minimum, so they know you can get information into someone in a certain speed? Is that why that minimum's put there?
No, because they downgraded it now to level 2 functional skills.
I've no idea what that means.
So you know how we would have sat key skills when we joined up, yeah? If you didn't do well in school, you done key skills. Functional skills is a new badge version of key skills. So what I would call a working person's maths and English. It's much more logical questions rather than the GCSE. But
am I right in saying that previously, though, they applied those minimum level grade standards so they know you could learn at a certain pace? Was that the idea behind that?
It's the idea, but they still say now. It still says that on the apprenticeship now. But what it says in brackets with it is, if you don't have these, then we can help you study towards them. So I think the terminology now reads, by the end of your apprenticeship, you must have a GCSE C in maths and English or equivalent, and the equivalent is now functional skills. So quite often in different places I've worked, the apprentices will come in for 2 solid days and they will effectively do 2 days intense maths and do the functional skills exam at the end of day 2, pass that, and then that's off the books, come back, do the same for English, go away, come back, do the same for ICT. And that's how places get round it, or they add it on an extra hour at the end of the day in the apprenticeship for the whole year and then do the exam when they're ready. You know, there's different avenues, but it's all about now, as long as they've got it by the time they complete rather than having it by the time they start, because of, I guess, the GCSE crisis that happens up and down the country every year. This will be really sad for lots of people now, but the last I checked, a grade 4 and above, so equivalent of C and above in maths and English, was something like 18% of people that sat them.
Yeah, I think I saw that as well. It's not that high, is it?
I mean, I'm not saying don't try at school, kids. What I'm saying is some of the best sports I know are shit, including myself. I'm not the best sport, but I mean, it's a practical game, isn't it? There's a lot of practical game in it. You can get through a career as an electrician being good at practical things and not being great academically, but it does help in your twilight of your career to be good at maths and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And you can pick a lot of that up through the course of your career, can't you, as well? It's not something you have to know right at the start. I think we've had quite a varied chat there, James. I just wanted to ask you what your goals are really for, moving forward now. You've gone through that apprenticeship now. You're a few years in. You've got your self-employed. You're trying to build up your own customer base, I think, from watching some of the stuff you've been putting out on YouTube. What are you trying to get to? Are you wanting to be a contractor yourself, or just gigging around the place? What are you looking to do?
I'm stuck in a thing. I don't really know exactly what I want to do. Yeah, I want to start my own business, but that's something if you're committing to that, that's a massive part of your life that you're committing to. At the moment, I'm happy. I'm working for this company and I'm doing my own stuff as well on the side. And I'm enjoying my life essentially. I've got time on the weekends when I'm not working, and I got guaranteed money coming in from the self-employed, so I'm not panicking about work coming in. But I think it's that thing I've always wanted to try and build something of my own, or build on something, make something. So to do that, you have to make your own company. So I think that's why I'm going down the route of that, if that makes sense. So as goals go, I think it's just making sure I'm happy doing what I'm doing, because the last thing you want to be is demotivated in what you're doing. Like now I'm enjoying what I do. I like going to work every day. The last thing I want to do is not looking forward to going to work every day.
Do you know what the number one rule for being self-employed is?
What's that?
Do what you fucking want. That's why I was self-employed, because you're the boss, aren't you? So if you want to go to work one day, go to work. If you don't, you may as well set up a company, mate, and just and go at it. Because I was self-employed when I was 21, and there were some weeks, maybe even months, where I did absolutely nothing. But you're still learning, you're still owning that. And I would advise anyone, if you want to have a bash at it, just crack on and do it how you want to do it, not how anyone says you should. And I've done all right out of it.
And if you haven't watched anything Jamie's done for the last few weeks, he's a mega fan of business courses to promote the...
Well, if you want to do it, do it. But like, I blagged it, and you can still blag it now. There's expenses to it, but the main thing about work is you want to enjoy it.
Yeah, that's what I think. Big thing about apprentices, like in the apprenticeship, there was times like I really didn't enjoy it, and questioned what I was doing. But the strongest advice I can give is just stick through your apprenticeship, because it does get better when you qualify. It's so much better. And I still go through stages now where I get a bit demotivated, but I've always found ways to like lift myself back up. It's like, so it sounds stupid, but like buying a new set of tools or something, you're like, oh, I can't wait to use them. You don't mind getting up the next day, looking forward to using your tools or learning about something new. So if you are starting to feel demotivated in what you're doing, find ways to bounce back, and there are different ways.
Not every day not every day of being a Sparky or being self-employed or any job is as shown on YouTube or Instagram. It's like, no one shows the mundane task of tapping a 3 meter length of conduit to nipples, do they? But I've done that 3 or 4 times.
But I think the important thing is you're saying there, James, isn't it? Is the good days outweigh the bad days. And as long as you have more good days than bad days, then it's a worthwhile journey to go and explore, I think.
Yeah, 100%. It's like we had an apprentice at the company I'm working for not long ago, and you could tell he just really didn't enjoy his apprenticeship, and he's actually given it up now. And it is sad to see, because he was one of those people who you could see, could take it all in, but he wasn't the best at the practical side of things. And it is annoying to see him just give up like that. And you could see he was demotivated, and he didn't find those ways to motivate himself again. And it's just not nice to see.
It's just not for everyone, though, is it? It's not for everyone.
It's a really powerful message you're sharing there, to be fair, James, because there's loads of people in Apprentice 1-to-1 who would definitely of that mindset after COVID and everything else, that it is really difficult. And like you say, just keep going, because once you get out the other side, you've got a whole career ahead of yourself to make some good money and have a rewarding and enjoyable job at the end of the day. And you're going on the journey that most people do when you go into starting your own business. Is it's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people across trades have traveled, where you start doing private jobs in your own time, alongside of it as self-employed or PAYE work. And then when you get to that stage that it's built up just enough, you've got the volume there, you make that leap and you go as a sole trader, or you start your own limited company. And I think you said before, you've got a family at home as well, so you've got that to consider. It is just the natural path we all seem to take when we are setting up our own businesses. That's what happened to me. I know from speaking with Neil, I think, Jamie, you was probably similar, I guess. I think we all kind of go down that avenue.
I only went self-employed because I got sick of working with dickheads. So I thought the only dickhead I'm working for is myself, and I am a dickhead. So nothing's changed.
Yeah, no, see what happens. Like, my aim is at the moment to grow my own business. I'm not rushing it. I don't want to rush anything. So it's like I speak to the company I'm working for now. They're happy to keep me there for a while and narrow my days down before I'm actually gonna go completely from them, which I'm glad of. And yeah, just slowly build it. I got times on my side. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to put myself under too much stress or pressure. I got nice money coming in every month at the moment, and I'm happy.
It's mostly subbing, It's mostly subbing, yeah. It's subbing to another company.
Yeah, so at the moment,
and picking up your own stuff.
Yeah, so 4 days a week, I'm 8 till 5 for a company, and then Friday and mostly Saturday morning, to be honest, I'm doing my own stuff, and sometimes Sundays, depending on things. And it's like I'll do the odd little job after work. Like I said, you've got to work hard if you want to make more money. So
you're working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and evenings.
It varies. Like, I won't work. I try and keep a Sunday closed off, but there's call outs, and I'm not going to turn down 80 odd quid for a couple of hours work. Do you know what I mean? So
that is the story of anyone that's ever been self-employed, man. I'm sure Mark would say the same. Yeah, that's how you start. You're fucking out there every single day. There's no point saying to someone, no, I can't come Sunday, can I do it Monday, because they don't want you then. So yeah, fair one. And a lot of people won't realise that. If you want to be self-employed, that's what it is. You are.
Oh yeah, I definitely realise, like, it is a lot. You got to work. You have got to work, but it's good because I enjoy it. Like, and I don't mind doing it at the moment. You see the money come in, but I will say you do earn a lot of money being self-employed and how much you work, but a lot of it just goes straight back out on investments. Like, at the moment, I'm seeing money.
This is basically a free business course that he's giving out here. Have you heard this guy? It's basically, you want to sell this shit.
I'm like, yeah, I got a lot of money this month, and then I'm like, shit, I got to buy that, and then it's all gone. You're like,
so I'm saying, work hard, and is that the secret? Is it?
I think for me, that's what it's been for me. I think the whole do
a good job.
Yeah, do a good job. Work hard, even if you got to do the overtime. I remember when the first 5 years of being apprentice and working, like, qualified, working for that company, I was working stupid amount of weekends. I remember us working a month straight before, just smashing it out. And some people say, no, I ain't doing that, or won't work the extra half hour to finish a job. Yeah, you can do that. You are contract 8 till 5, but help them out, and eventually they will help you out. And like now, they're helping me out by narrowing down my days when I want to. And
that's exactly the kind of attitude I want to employ. That when I was employing, that is exactly the kind of attitude I want. That's the attitude I have. I'll just stop and get it done, and I'll nick it back tomorrow. Yeah, that's that flexibility. Robbing Pete to pay Paul, as I would call it, is what any good boss will be looking for. And that's the wise words that you're speaking there.
But it comes back into your college life as well. I've always said, in the whole time I was in education before I left, I would rather have somebody who struggles to learn, but has the right work ethic to try the best they can to learn, than somebody who's a know-it-all and then just becomes a bit of a smart ass.
Mark.
Thanks.
But you'd rather have people there that were keen and eager, that were doing everything they could to try their best, which I think is what you're saying about your work, just getting on and doing everything you can to make you as good as you can be. Applying that same thing in colleges for apprentices is massive. The teachers will go a lot further with them when they just go, do you know what? Help. But here I am, this is what I'm doing outside this, and this is how I'm trying to understand it.
Yeah, it's like if you're an apprentice and you get asked to work weekends, like I'm going to contradict myself here. I would say don't work weekends because the money's rubbish as an apprentice, but just think of it of, if you're working that weekend, you've got an extra 2 days of experience learning, and it's just going to help you. That 2 days adds up. So if you work, 10 weekends over the year, that's an extra however many days of experience you got, and it is a little bit of extra money in your pocket.
Yeah, it's a good shout. There's more value than just money in some things, isn't there? Definitely. Is there anything else you want to cover, James, while you're here? Anything you want to mention while you're on with us? I mean, you've got your own outlet to do that anytime you want, but anything you want to say with us, old farts, while you're here?
Not that I can think of, to be honest. I think we've covered quite a lot of.
Yeah, it's been a good chat, mate. We appreciate you coming on. And again, as I said to every guest we have on here, we will share links to your socials on here, but you're far more big time than any of us to start with. But they'll be in there regardless. Anything you want to add, Jamie, before we end this one?
I've enjoyed that. I thought a good attitude, mate. I really enjoyed talking to you, honestly. A lot of people do well. A lot of people coming to trade do well to watch this podcast, probably with all the shit I've said edited out and just what you're saying. That's I think how I got there. It's just grafting, doing a good job, putting the effort in, and it's obviously paid off for you.
Like I said, just
good luck.
Before I leave, it's just make sure you set up your social medias. Even if you don't post, just post something now and again. Work hard, and good things will happen, I guess.
And Craig?
No, it was just nice to hear a refreshing point of view and not someone blaming everybody else for their mistakes. And
not that any of the other guests have done that. But yeah.
And just going, yeah, this is me, this is what I've done, and this is where I'm going. I think that's admirable, mate. Well done, and I hope it goes the way you want.
Well, thank you.
And thank you to everybody who's listened and bared with us on this one. If you've got any comments, drop them in below and we will get back to you as always. I'll share a link to Jamie's triangle and, as I said, to everybody's socials as well.
The Jamie Triangle.
The Jamie Triangle.
That's the name of my course that's going to be available for next week. £15 ago.
It's like the Bermuda Triangle. The money disappears into it. And
it's a copy of this video and a picture of that sent to your ass for 15 quid a week.
Until the next one, we'll see you then.
Bye all.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Apprentice 1-to-1 podcast, sponsored by Schneider Electric. Please like and subscribe to the channel, get involved with the comments, and we will see you on the next one.